And without further ado, Governor Daniel McKee. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everybody, and then it's great to be back here, and certainly matching up advocacy and action are the key here, right? Is that we can talk about it, but if we don't do things, then what are we talking about? So I'm glad to be here, joined here by Lieutenant Governor, Secretary Frier, staff from the Office of Housing and Community Development, but I'm especially glad to be here with homelessness service providers and partners who have stepped up and have been working around the clock with my administration to expand emergency shelter capacity. We did a whole hands-on deck right around a little before Thanksgiving. Was standing here, our director of DBR, and we kind of pulled her and pulled some other people together, matched them up with Stefan, and got out to a really active daily effort to address the issues that we're dealing with and the immediate issues. And as I've said, and I do agree with Jen, that that we're always, seems as though I'm always reading, prior to being governor, scrambling right around this time of the year. And I certainly made a commitment, just like yesterday, made a commitment to increase our vaccine capacity on a weekly basis back up to 100,000. Well, I think it's the same scenario here. We got to overbuild, develop to get ready for the peak time frame. That peak time frame when, and then we can get down to the business that we all want to get down to, which is providing permanent housing strategies that can help everybody that lives in Rhode Island. So I'm happy to be here with the Rhode Island Coalition to End Homelessness. Jen and Caitlin, I have to thank you not only for hosting us today, but for your persistence and dedications to serving our fellow Rhode Islanders. We're here to recognize the efforts of a number of providers and thank them for their coordination and collaboration with my staff, with my administration, to quickly expand winter shelter for years, for years, and thank them for their years of tireless work. It does not get, it's not going unnoticed, and I like to lift up your contributions to make Rhode Island a better place and join you in that effort. I also want to recognize Neil Steinberg from the Rhode Island Foundation, who has played a role in today's announcements. Whenever we need the foundation to help to get over the finish line, you're there for us, Neil, and yesterday was no exception, talking to you about other short and long-term strategies relative to this issues of housing. So thank you to you and the foundation. Working to address the housing crisis is not a new priority for me or the Lieutenant Governor. Whether it was the first budget I submitted to the General Assembly, my administration's down payment proposal, or how quickly we acted to fix the problems with the Rent Relief Rhode Island program that we inherited. And also as a mayor, I think that I was the first community in the state of Rhode Island to actually have a state-approved affordable housing plan. And while I was mayor, we followed through on that plan. And we actually exceeded that by the time I left office. Addressing housing instability and affordability needs to be and is at the core of our efforts of the people that work with me in my office. Because we all know if a child doesn't have a safe place or stable place to sleep at night, how can we expect that individual, that student to actually perform well in school? If one of our fellow Rhode Islanders spends their day worried about where they're going to sleep at night, how can we expect them to excel or be employed in a way that is really helping their family and helping our community establish an economy in the state of Rhode Island that can support all families that live in the state of Rhode Island? And how can we expect to increase our population as a state and retain our fair share of talented and skilled college graduates if they can't afford to live here? I think at this moment in time, when we're talking about the staffing issues, as we did yesterday at the hospitals, but it runs from bus drivers, to hospitality, to manufacturing, everywhere in between. Today we're focused on the hospital issues, but housing makes a difference in terms of retaining and making sure we're keeping the very best people living in our state and developing the economy that we all want to have as we want to thrive as families in our communities. But this isn't a problem that will just be solved with a checkbook or a press release. This problem can only be solved by doing the work. And the work is hard. And as I said before, Sabina and I are ready and willing to work with anyone who is willing to do the work. The people here today have been doing the work and continue to do the work, and I thank you for that. In early November, we announced $5 million in funding to our emergency shelter providers to increase the number of beds for this current winter season. I want to thank the Secretary Frier, because we didn't really have access to the federal dollars at that point in time, so I asked him to go patchwork as much money as we could put from any direction that we could. That $5 million exists today because of the work that Stefan did and his staff by trying to find areas that we could pull from. So we announced that funding would cover 275 beds. And at this point, I'm really pleased and happy to say that we are actually tracking a total of 298 beds, more than we had projected. On top of the $5 million investment, my administration has been working with all hands on deck, my office, the Office of Housing and Community Development, Commerce, Department of Health Department, business regulations, I've said, and even the National Guard alongside providers and communities to ramp up shelter capacity to serve even more Rhode Islanders. Today's announcement is the definition of a true team effort. When you start talking about engaging a few weeks before Thanksgiving and be here a few weeks before Christmas, that's an incredible amount of work, and it didn't just happen by wishing and hoping and praying. Today I'm pleased to announce the addition of up to 130 emergency shelter beds for Rhode Islanders experiencing homelessness and 20 beds for COVID-positive Rhode Islanders, and I expect to make even more expansion announcements over the coming weeks. Let me share a few more details. Next week, Amos House will open a non-congregate shelter program in Pawtucket at the Memorial Hospital. We anticipate families will be able to move, and starting in next week, and it'll be up to 80 beds. I want to thank everybody involved in that, but in particular Mayor Grevian, who is a champion for this cause, and the City of Pawtucket, Lockwood Development, and Veterans Services USA. I want to thank the Mayor, Lockwood, and Eileen Hayes, and her entire team at the Amos House for making this happen in such a short time frame. Open Doors in Providence has committed to expanding their current operations to add 15 beds, which has now up and running as of yesterday. I see Nick Horton here today and from Open Doors, and thank you, Nick. House of Hope will open up 25 hotel beds in East Providence in the next week. I thank you, Laura, and the House of Hope for being here today, and thank you for your work. Your creative problem solving and leadership in this space is a huge asset to the state. Not to mention your willingness to step up and expand hotel bed capacity in East Providence. So thank you for all you've done and continue to do. Community Care Alliance has agreed to add up to 10 hotel vouchers to their existing contract in Woonsocket, starting later this week. So thank you to CCA. In addition to providing emergency shelter beds at various service providers throughout the state, I'm also announcing that starting today, we're opening a quarantine and isolation facility in Providence. I want to thank the Episcopal Diocese and the West Bay Community Action, who are both here this morning for their work in this facility. The Q&I facility will be at the Hallworth House in Providence and will serve housing insecure Rhode Islanders who test positive for COVID and need to quarantine to isolate. The facility can accommodate individuals as well as families. And I want to thank Mayor Lorza for his support on this project. This Q&I facility also serves another important purpose. With this facility up and running, we are enabling homelessness service providers to restore capacity they lost due to the social distancing requirements. Most notably, Crossroads anticipates that it will be able to add even more capacity at locations they provide services to for housing insecure individuals. And I want to thank Karen Santilli, Michelle Wilcox, and the entire Crossroads team for all that you've done to serve our most vulnerable throughout the pandemic. That's a mouthful, but that's a lot of work. And there's a number of people that we are going to continue to work with. And most of these organizations I have visited personally more than once, as Lieutenant Governor and now as Governor. And I can't extend my thanks to each and every one of you in a way that is appropriate, other than say thank you for the people of the state of Rhode Island, in particular those families and individuals that rely on our providers and the help that they provide each and every day to people who live in the state of Rhode Island. So thank you so much for having me today.